Aviation history is filled with strange events, unexplained disappearances, mysterious crashes, and bizarre radar anomalies. But nothing compares to the story you're about to hear. This isn't just another mystery. This is the account of what many consider the creepiest cockpit audio ever recorded, the final, haunting moments of a flight that vanished into thin air, leaving only a single, chilling transmission behind. Our story begins with a commercial twin-engine prop plane flying a routine route late at night. The sky was calm, visibility was excellent, and the moon cast a clear light over the landscape below. There were no mechanical issues reported before takeoff, and the pilot was a seasoned professional with over a decade of experience in the air. Everything about this flight was perfectly normal, standard procedure from start to finish. Until the final 12 minutes. That's when normal ended and something inexplicable began. A flight was proceeding exactly as planned, maintaining its altitude and speed, when the first sign of trouble emerged, not from the aircraft, but from the pilot's voice itself. Air traffic control was monitoring the flight, just like any other in their airspace. The pilot was in the middle of a routine check-in, reporting his altitude. He said, "Maintaining flight level 1-9er-0, ... and then, abruptly, his voice cut off. The transmission didn't just end. It broke into a wash of static. For a few seconds, the controllers heard nothing but noise. Then, a new sound came through the static, something they couldn't identify. It was a low, almost whisper-like hum. Confused, the controllers tried to re-establish contact. They asked the pilot to repeat his message, expecting a simple explanation, perhaps a momentary radio issue. But the reply that came back didn't sound like the same pilot. It was a different voice, and it was the first clue that something was terribly wrong. The voice that responded was shaky, quiet, and almost impossible to fully understand. It was so faint that at first the controllers thought it might just be interference. But as they listened closer, they could make out words, fragmented and strained. Years later, investigators would enhance the audio using every tool at their disposal, trying to decipher what was said in those critical seconds. But even with modern technology, key parts remain unclear, shrouded in static and the strange, quiet tone of the speaker. The most accepted transcription of the pilot's words is something like, "They're here, ... double quotes, or perhaps it was. It's here, ... The ambiguity only makes it more disturbing. Was he referring to people? An object? Something else entirely?" Seconds after this unsettling phrase, another burst of static flooded the radio, followed by a sound that made the controller's blood run cold. It sounded like heavy, labored breathing, or someone struggling to speak, their breath catching in their throat. On the ground, concern was rapidly turning to alarm. Radar screens, which had shown the aircraft flying a perfectly straight line, now showed it starting to drift off its assigned heading. It was a slow, gradual deviation, but it was clear the plane was no longer under precise control. Controllers began calling the pilot repeatedly, their voices growing more urgent with each attempt. November-Tango, -7-0-0, do you require assistance? November-Tango-7-0-0, what is your status? But the only replies they received were more fragments of terrifying, unexplainable sound. A sharp, metallic noise, like something striking metal inside the cockpit. A muffled thump, heavy and dull. And then, a faint, trembling voice saying something no one in the control room could make out. Some who heard the recording later believed it was the sound of pure fear. Others suggested it was confusion, the pilot disoriented and unable to communicate. But a few felt it was something worse, something beyond human comprehension. The final clear words picked up by the cockpit microphone were slow and strained, spoken as if it took every ounce of the pilot's energy to get them out. He said, "I can't see it anymore, ... double quotes." Investigators and aviation experts have debated the meaning of this phrase for decades. What was it? There was nothing else on the radar, anywhere near the aircraft. No weather anomalies, no storms, no other planes. Just open, empty sky. Was he referring to something inside the cockpit? Or something outside, invisible to radar? Those final, cryptic words hung in the air for a moment. And then there was only silence. The transmission ended. The strange breathing, the metallic noises, the whispering voice, all of it was gone. Moments after that final, chilling transmission, the aircraft simply vanished from the radar screen. 1 second, its transponder was painting a clear, bright dot on the display. The next, it was gone. There was no distress call. The emergency locator beacon, designed to activate automatically on impact, never sent a signal. There was no trace. Immediately, one of the largest search and rescue operations in the region's history was launched. Over the next several days and weeks, teams on sea and in the air scanned more than 1,000 square miles of ocean and terrain, following the plane's last known trajectory. They were looking for anything: a piece of wreckage, an oil slick, a life raft. They found nothing. It was as if the aircraft, along with everyone on board, had been plucked from the sky, ceasing to exist in an instant. In the aftermath, audio specialists were brought in to analyze the cockpit recording frame by frame. They discovered an unexplained interference pattern embedded within the transmission, something that was not typical of a standard mechanical failure or an electrical malfunction. The anomaly in the sound waves couldn't be replicated or explained by conventional means. Naturally, theories began to emerge. Some experts suggested the pilot may have suffered from hypoxia, a lack of oxygen that can cause confusion and hallucinations. Others proposed the possibility of a sudden, fast-moving cockpit fire that produced toxic fumes, incapacitating the crew before they could react. But none of these theories fully explain the entire sequence of events. Hypoxia doesn't account for the strange whispering voice at the beginning of the incident. A fire doesn't explain the final words, which sound like someone describing a visual phenomenon that no one else could see. Decades later, the case remains one of aviation's most profound and unsettling unsolved mysteries. The official file is still open, but the trail has long gone cold. There is no wreckage, no definitive cause, and no closure for the families of those who were lost. All that remains is that chilling audio recording, a document of the final 12 minutes of a flight to nowhere. It stands as a terrifying reminder that even in our modern world of advanced technology, there are some things that we simply cannot explain. The story of this flight continues to haunt the aviation world, a puzzle with too many missing pieces. If this story captured your imagination and you want to explore more real aviation mysteries, unexplained disappearances, and chilling true events, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We dive deep into the cases that defy explanation. Thanks for watching.